Can you see my screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm from the University of Salento, together with my co-authors Valeria Lia and Maria Grazia Agnoni, and we worked with some colleagues from the National Institute for the Insurance of Work-Related Injuries to this work, which is about the applications of smart technologies for the automatic detection of near misses in the industrial safety domain. So, first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the background, so what is near miss and how these events are managed in a company, and define the problem that we are trying to face. Then I'm going through some of the smart technologies that are already used for supporting safety at the workplace, and then I will show you the results of our literature analysis, and conclude with some observations. So let's start from the background. What is a near-miss event and why we are interested in monitoring this type of events. A near-miss event is an occurred event that didn't cause any harm, only by luck, because it had the potential to do so. So the difference between a near-miss event and an accident with a serious or minor injury for a worker is that with a near-miss we don't have any injuries, only by luck. So a near-miss event usually shares with the accidents the same direct causes and contributing factors, which is the reason why we are so interested in studying this type of events. Also because statistics in the years showed that the frequency of near-miss events is sensitively higher than that of minor injuries, and even higher than that of serious injuries, for example, accidents that can cause the death of an employee. So they are more frequent and they are more neglected by companies who prefer to focus on more serious accidents. But by studying these near misses, we have the possibility to understand also the causes and the factors contributing to more serious accidents. So this is why it's important to analyze and to study also this type of events. To do this, we need a near-miss management system. Usually this type of systems are made up. There is not a standard for this, but in general, we would find almost always mainly 5 steps. The first one is the definition of what is a near-miss event, and I'm going to show you why this is important in a while. The second is the identification and reporting phase. Then there is the assessment and the analysis phase of the data collected, the identification of a possible solution, and finally the dissemination and follow-up phase. In this work, we focused in particular in this, on the second step, so the phase of reporting of a near miss. So how this happens? Usually in a company, workers and or supervisors have the task of reporting occurred events, near miss, manually. Then these data are collected and managed by a safety expert for the analysis phase to try to understand the causes and critical factors and so on. So in this process, there are 2 main things to underline. The first is that a clear definition of what should be included as a near miss is missing. Even in academia, there is not a wide agreement about what a company should include as a near miss. Because, for example, the classic, the traditional approach says that a near miss is an event that didn't cause any harm. So anything that happens on a workplace that didn't cause any harm to people. A wider approach suggests that we should also include those unsafe conditions or unsafe acts from the workers that could eventually turn into an accident. So with a more generic approach and a more precautious approach. Second thing is the proper training of the worker and the supervisors that should be reporting these events. So from here, two main criticalities. The first one, the risk of missing one of these events, so underestimating events or conditions that could have been useful to study in order to improve the safe management process. And the second criticality is related to the person that has to report the near miss, because reporting efficiency is highly impacted by the worker's attitude. So by the awareness, the safety involvement, the skills, and so on. So to answer to these criticalities, maybe, and we'll see that in a minute, smart technologies can help. We have to say that smart technologies are already adopted in the safety domain in different contexts. For example, before starting this, we mean by smart technologies a set of tools for acquiring, analyzing, and communicating data to enhance a specific industrial process. In this case, we talk about the safety management process. And through these technologies, we have the possibility to collect both real-time and historical data regarding safety in a simple way and in a cost-effective way. And this gives us the possibility to identify trends, to find training opportunities, and also to improve the behavior of employees, basing these decisions on actual data. So a few examples of smart technologies that are already applied in the safety domain are monitoring of worker conditions. So we already have some examples of the use of wearable sensing technologies like smart clothes or smart watches to monitor a worker's physiological state in real time. Another example is workplace monitoring. So, for example, sensor networks, IoT technologies that can provide the capability to connect and retrieve data on machines, plants, and workplace on real time, and alert workers or managers of eventual unsafe conditions. Moreover, proximity detection, for example, between workers and machines. So one example is the use of wireless technologies like RFIDs that are used to measure a worker's proximity to a particularly hazardous equipment or a moving equipment. And finally, the use of augmented and virtual reality tools for training and for increasing the awareness of workers. So this is already happening in many companies. And smart technologies are used for many reasons: to prevent accidents from happening, to respond to hazardous conditions in a prompt way, and also to inform and train workers about safety procedures. So what we wanted to understand was, can we adopt some of these technologies also to detect automatically near-miss events and overcome those criticalities that we've seen a few moments ago? To answer this question, we first did a literature analysis. So looking for near-miss detection, smart technologies and near-miss, Industry 4.0 and near-miss on the Scopus database, and found only 9 papers, 9 publications, all published in the last decade, and analyzed them, categorizing them by field of application, specific risk problem considered, and the adopted smart technology. So in this slide, there is a summary of what we found. As I said, it's only 9 papers so far. we have both international journals publications and conference proceedings. And we identified 3 clusters, let's say. The first one includes works that focus on monitoring of worker conditions through wearable technologies or mobile technologies to monitor and to detect near miss regarding the fall risk, so a specific type of risk. What I didn't say is that all of these 9 papers were from the construction sector, so from one specific industrial sector. So a couple of examples is the use of inertial measurement unit sensors to detect near-miss fall detection, and the use of 3-axial accelerometers embedded in smartphones, together with the use of artificial neural networks to elaborate data. A second cluster was focused on the proximity detection, so detected near miss related to interference between worker and equipment. And both works used technologies like GPS, RFIDs, or ultra-wideband to collect the data and also provide information through, for example, in one case, a heat map that had to show the hazardous level of different zones in a site. And in the other case, a proximity hazard indicator that had to perform the same task. The third cluster includes a couple of papers focused on that had a more generic approach. So they are not looking at a specific risk problem, but they're looking at a generic safety level in the work site, considering, of course, also always near misses. And they were based on RFIDs and wireless sensors to create wireless sensor networks that could reveal near miss happening in a work site and monitor the workers or the workplace conditions. So what we could learn by this short literature review is summarized here. First of all, as I said, only a few studies, all published in the last decade, most of them after 2014. So this means that it is a really recent field of application. There is something going on out there, but still not widely investigated. The other thing to underline is that all of these studies are on the construction sector. So this makes sense because it is an hazardous sector with a high injury rate all over the world. So it makes sense that researchers are trying to study a little bit more about safety in this field. And also it is affected by standardized and well-known risks, which are in a certain way easier to detect as near misses, because we know what we are looking for. We know we are looking for falling risk or being struck by vehicles risk and so on. The other thing is that all these papers propose a prototypal application. So the adoption of smart technologies for automatic and near miss detection is still in a very, very early and preliminary phase. So for this reason, we can conclude that further research can be for sure oriented at expanding this domain of application, both in terms of other industrial sectors, other than the construction one, and also of risk types, hoping that this can concur to improve the application of near-miss management systems in companies. So that's all from my side.
Thank you, Fabiana. You were perfectly on time, so we have some minutes.